welcome to Mornings with Megan. My name is Megan Wysock, and I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions here at Thaddeus Stevens College of Technology. Mornings with Megan is a short segmented series where we highlight and get questions answered from one of our offices on campus. Today we're talking placement, internships, and in-demand careers. You got it, we're talking about career services. Our guest with me this morning is none other than our fabulous Director of Career Services, Laurie Grove. Laurie, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks, Megan. I'm excited to be here.
So we have a couple of questions to ask. So let's get right into our first one.
Okay.
What services can the Career Services Office provide to our students?
So in addition to job search placement, internship placement, you name it, we're also working with students to help them with their resumes, cover letters, interviewing prep. We do lots of mock interviewing. We also help students actually manage their social media platforms. We'll work with them to help them develop really strong professional LinkedIn profiles. So whatever a student needs in order to help prepare for that job or that internship, that's what we're going to do.
What are some of the top recruited programs here at the college?
So at Thaddeus Stevens, just by design, we focus many of our program majors that fall under a couple different umbrellas. One is going to be manufacturing, one is construction, among others. I'm highlighting them simply because the demand for those areas are so extraordinary. So when it comes to manufacturing, let's say, for example, anything that has anything to do with electrical technology, electromechanical, these are industrial maintenance type positions that these students are going into. The demand for this job is so extraordinary that we don't come close to having enough grads to fill even a fraction of the jobs. From the construction side, same. Our carpentry students, residential remodeling, plumbing, HVAC has become one of our also highest recruited programs. It's interesting. Some of the things that we teach, you cannot outsource. You've got to have that skill set right then and there. HVAC is one of them.
What are some things that I should consider when selecting a major here at Thaddeus Stevens College?
So, it's interesting, and I'll talk about it twofold. So, institutionally, meaning if you're going to decide to go for post-secondary education, before you choose where you go, you want to make sure that you're asking some really important questions beforehand. So number one, regardless, whether it's a 4-year school, 2-year certificate program, apprenticeship, you want to ask, number one, the program that you're interested in going into, how many students who start that program actually finish and graduate? Of those that graduate, how many are actually working directly in the field that they went to school for? Thirdly, you want to ask, of those that are working directly in their field, what are they starting out? What's their median starting salaries? And how much are they making 5 years down the road? If where you're thinking of going cannot answer those questions, you really want to reconsider going to that institution or choosing that major. Let's talk about the major itself though. Regardless of what skill set you're looking to gain, you want to make sure that that skill set aligns with in-demand jobs now, 5 years, 10 years down the road. So there's a couple ways that you can do that. There is a website called ONET, onetonline.org. It's actually, the information is populated through the Department of Labor and Industry, and they do a fantastic job of giving you a great overview of the skills needed for a particular job, of the job outlook, how many jobs will actually be around in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and what are some of the median salaries for those jobs. The reason why that's important, if I had one piece of advice to give any prospective student or their families, is think about what you want to do as a career first, then figure out what kind of education you need for that job. That's really going to be the most effective way for you to not have extraordinary debt, but yet get the skills you need to do the job, the career that you want moving forward.
A rumor we hear a lot in the admissions office is that if you go to Thaddeus Stevens, you're guaranteed a job. Do we guarantee a job here at Thaddeus Stevens?
So my answer to that is of course not. Whether a student or a graduate lands a job, starts a career, is 100% dependent upon their efforts and what they do. We're here to support the students and the graduates to make sure that they have access to every job possible. It's our job to prepare our students and grads to make sure that they've got the skills they need. Obviously, they're getting them in their technical major, but that they have the interviewing skills, they have the resumes put together, they actually know how to present themselves when they go out and apply for and then interview jobs. So we're going to help students prepare for that, but it's the students' effort. It's what they put into it that determines whether they get a job or not. So I guess the question is a job going to land on your lap, but you're doing nothing? Chances are no. So you're going to have to put yourself out there in order to land that job.
How am I able to get an internship? And when is the ideal time that I should be interning?
So great question. I get that all the time. One of my favorite things about Thaddeus Stevens is the number of students that actually work in their field in industry prior to graduation. So we actually start working with students as early as their very first semester that they're here to start that preparation piece. Most of our programs are 2 years in length, so you've got a full summer, 3 months of time where students have the ability to work full-time in their field before they actually graduate and go into their official full-time job. So the reason why that is so important, number one, it allows the students to have really practical hands-on experience out in industry. The skills that they're learning out in industry really are, how do you get along with others? How do you communicate with your boss, with your coworkers? What does that look like? That's invaluable experience that employers want our students to have. And it's the reason why so many of our employers open their doors to host a student over the summer. What's interesting about the fields that we teach, just last year, the summer, now I'm not talking about COVID, let's talk pre-COVID for this, but the summer of 2019, we had more than 85% of our entire freshman class working full-time in their field during that summer, and 100% of those internships were paid. In fact, the median internship hourly rate was $14.41. Considering what minimum wage is, these are just intern rates. The potential for employment is just extraordinary. Another thing to keep in mind with internships is that we know, just history tells us, that if you are interning in your field, more than 96, it's close to 97% of all of our students who actually work in their field internship at some point during their college years at Thaddeus Stevens, more than 96%, almost 97% of them have full-time job offers prior to graduation. Those numbers don't lie. That's straight up statistics. So we know how important it is that students are connected with industry while they're here.
Another rumor that we hear a lot in the admissions office is that we're based here in Lancaster County, and that we only have contacts here in Lancaster. Do we have contacts outside of Lancaster County?
Great question. The answer is no. We don't only have connections with Lancaster County. While the majority of our employers do come from Lancaster County in the south central PA area, that's just because that's where most of our students come from. We have relationship with employers all over the country. In fact, I've actually even helped a student get placed in a job in Europe, but that's not the norm at all. But if you really break it down, and if you look at the state of Pennsylvania and break it down by county, Lancaster County does represent the highest percentage of employers, meaning where they come from when they're recruiting our students and grads. York County's number 2. The third highest geographic region of where our employers come from actually are outside of the United States, or excuse me, not the United States, outside of Pennsylvania. So that gives you an idea of where they're coming from. I think what's most important, the key to remember, is that it doesn't matter if you're looking for a job in your backyard, in your hometown, or you're looking for a job, the whole way across the state, you're in Texas. The process is identical, absolutely identical. And so we'll work with students, regardless of where they want to go, to help them get contacts at that company, to help them, prepare for the job interview. Whatever it takes, we will work with a student or grad for as long as it takes for them to get where they need to be. That's our commitment. That's important to us. but the job search itself is identical regardless of where you want to go.
So if I'm an incoming student and maybe I have some work experience, maybe I don't, but what should I do if I don't have a resume?
So, it is important to have a document that highlights your skills, your background, your job history, because that often is the first thing an employer is going to see, and that often might be the one thing that makes them call you to come in for an interview. Keep in mind, a resume has one purpose, literally one purpose only, and it's not to get you a job, it's to get you an interview. So you want to make sure that you put together a resume, basic one-page resume that overviews what's your education, what's your experience, what have you done in the past, and what are you hoping to accomplish. Those three things will give an employer what they need. So if you don't have a resume, there's some really great resources available to you to help quickly put together a resume. So current students have access to our portal. Our portal has a slew of sample resumes available by program major and by year. So I have freshman samples, sophomore samples for every program major. That just will help you with the technical lingo jargon of your particular major so you know what to put on your resume. We also utilize an internal job posting site. It's called College Central Network. Very similar, if you've ever heard of Indeed.com, similar platform where all of our jobs, internships are posted on that site. It's also how the Career Services Office manages all of our employers. So it's our CRM. So it allows us to maintain detailed contact information on over 4,000 different employers that we work with. That's really important because when students go in and connect for these jobs, they have access to contact information right there. Within that site is an incredibly easy resume builder. All of our students have access to this. In fact, all of our graduates continue to have access to this site. And so you can very simply and easily create a resume with the resume builder. I always caution students when they're creating resumes, please make sure you get some extra eyeballs on that document. So there's no mistakes, there's no typos, you name it. Get some other people to look at it. The Career Services Office will always be there to take a look at your resume. You've heard of maybe resume scrubs. We'll definitely go through the resume, make sure it looks okay, it's error-free, and then you've got a document that will allow you to start really applying for those internships, those jobs. But there's many resources available to you to make that resume very easily.
Should I only be using the Career Services Office as a second-year student? Is that too late? Is there an ideal time I should be taking advantage of the resources?
Great question. I would say start as early as possible. It's never, ever too early to start engaging with your Career Services Office. Just because of the number of resources available to you, and the sooner you get started and become familiar with and comfortable with the platforms that they use, the easier it's going to be for you to actually navigate through and use those services. But it's never too late. So I have students right before they graduate pop in and say, Miss Grove, I need some help. I don't know what to do. Anytime, come into the Career Services Office. I'm actually working with a student right now who's relocating back to the area. He graduated several years ago, and he now is relocating back to the area. Called me, reached out. He is now utilizing our career services as well. So we work with alumni, we work with current students. Once you graduate from Thaddeus Stevens, these services are available to you forevermore. But it is never, never too late to come in and start utilizing the services.
Lastly, what is the best way for a student, maybe a counselor or a teacher, to reach out to the Career Services Office should they have more questions?
So in order to get in touch with the Career Services Office, email is always the best way. So we have a general email address, which is careerservices@stevenscollege.edu. My personal email, which is grove@stevenscollege.edu. Our contact information is also on our website. It's in the directory. It's also on the Career Services page of our website. So if you're on the website and you hover over Campus Life, you've got to do that first. Then go down and you'll find Career Services. It's not always the easiest to find. If you just forget how to find it, scroll down to the bottom of our website. There's a search bar. Just type in career services. It'll pop right up. But all of our contact information is on there as well. We do have a phone number. You can call it 717-396-7188. But email is going to be the easiest, fastest, most direct way to get a hold of us.